back. You actually came back. It means that episode 1 wasn't that bad. Welcome, everybody, back to the Chris Konya Show. Thank you so much for listening or watching. However you're consuming this show, I really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 about Hurricane Dorian. It seems that it didn't turn out as bad as was predicted. We do want to get to one of the most viral videos coming out of the Hurricane Dorian story. But before that, I'd like to introduce my guest for today. He is a member of the Rochester educational system, as we talk about back to school today, Mike Vitale. Mike, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored. Finally sitting in the Thunder Drain studios.
Thunder Media Live studios.
Damn.
Thunder Drain is one of our sponsors.
My apologies.
There may be some kind of correlation between those two entities. But that's neither here nor there. I wanted to bring this up before we talk about our topic today, which you saw in the description of the episode. It's back to school. We are in the first week of September at the time of this recording, and that's all anybody's talking about. Watch the news this morning, and every single segment, if it wasn't about Hurricane Dorian, it was about back to school. And as I scroll through Twitter, after the recording of the last episode, the first episode, which was about Hurricane Dorian, about the Waffle House Index, which you should definitely check out if you're just skipping around and here on episode 2. The most viral video to come out of the story is not about destruction, devastation. It's not about meteorologists jumbling up his words or anything like that. It's about this interview that went around the internet like crazy from this very well-educated man who seems to be down in Florida. And Mike, he has the solution for current and future natural disasters.
You know, everyone's got an answer.
Well, this is his.
Can't see how they haven't come up with some kind of way to combat these storms yet. They keep saying, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, oh, it said this, but it's going to hit all this warm weather, this warm weather and warm water. We have a Navy. Why don't the Navy come and drop ice in the warm water?
Okay, before that Navy comment, I just wanted to point out he turned with confidence and looked at the camera.
I noticed that he squared up, shoulders facing right at the camera. That was a confident answer.
Okay, so obviously he's coming up with a solution on how to prevent future hurricanes, like we mentioned. And his idea is to use the Navy. We have a Navy.
Why don't the Navy come and drop ice in the warm water so it can't get going as fast as it's going? There's got to be ways to combat this instead of just pointing at the thing and say, well, now it's getting worse. Yeah, we know it's getting worse, but you tell us, oh, it's the warm weather. Oh, it's the wind. Well, we have an Air Force. Drive some Air Force planes around to get the winds going the opposite way. Get the Navy to go in circles to fight it the other way.
Wow. Hey, it sounds like science to me.
I mean, at least someone's thinking here.
It's true.
We want to blame global warming and these conspiracy theorists. No. All we need to do is send the Navy or the Air Force or both.
Drop some ice.
They're not doing anything.
Yeah, they got nothing better to do. No.
This man wants the Air Force to create some kind of whirlwind with and I'm the first one to admit that I know nothing about planes or the Air Force or anything, but I imagine what he's picturing isn't doable.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say you're probably right. But again, hey, we don't know unless we try. And good for this guy for, sticking to his guns and trying to think of a solution. But, yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know force and drag and all that either. But I'm going to take a wild guess and say dumping the ice on the warm water probably is not going to work.
It makes you think, what if, I don't know, someone's feeling crazy and they try something like this. Mm-hmm. What if it worked? Are they going back and giving this guy the Medal of Honor?
He's definitely getting more TV time. That's for sure.
He's getting the Purple Heart.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. 100%. You got to give credit where it's due.
All right. I just wanted to bring that up because we missed that on the last episode, and that's what's going around about Hurricane Dorian because we live in today's society. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't care about devastation. We want to talk more. I want to talk more to that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Mike Vitale, we're back for the 2019-2020 year of school. Mm-hmm. First of all, as I would ask every teacher, how was your summer break?
I will never complain. again, I work in the charter school system, so I'm not a public school teacher, so my summer is a little more cut short. And I'm an administrator as well, so I get about 6 weeks off in the summer, but you'll never hear me complain, even though my brothers and other family members like to say that, I lucked out in my
Lucked out.
in
It's
my
not like they
career.
couldn't have been teachers.
Yeah.
Or administrators.
But you know what, though? To be completely honest, once I get back to school, like, it's good to be back on a routine, like eating, my workout schedule, like, because, in the summer, you're going to want to sleep in,
Sure.
or hey, who wants to go out for lunch, or, so it kind of gets you off the routine.
I found this with starting my own business. I mean, people think, once you're your own boss, you're going to be ingrained in the business, which a good entrepreneur or businessman or whatever should do. Mm-hmm. But it's very, very, very appealing when you can just, reschedule work for a different day, have a complete day off, and, have the hangover and stay in bed, or go out to lunch and really never have a plan after that. It's the discipline is the hard part, and the freedom is the scary part.
Oh, 100%. And, just like you said, like, Billy, like, hey, you want to go out for a drink, or hey, you want to go to happy hour, you want to go to, and
these other teachers that you're messaging, or people in the education system?
Both. Yeah. Like,
whoever's around.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing too. Like, because again, like, you work with, certain people, but like not all of my friends work in the educational field. So a lot of times during the summer, I'll just, I'll wake up, at a decent hour in the morning, go to the gym, and then, I'm back home by 11 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, what the hell am I going to do the rest of the day? Like, clean my house for the 30th time that month? Or like, so like, sometimes you go a little stir crazy, to be honest.
Sure.
And especially like for me, like, I don't own a house, so it's not like I got like yard work to do or landscape or, basic home repairs. So like, I keep my place.
Not a lot of projects.
You're right. So it's like, you're sitting there tapping your thumbs, and like it's 80-something degrees out. You don't want to be stuck in the house, but it's like, what do you do? So, but like, again, I'm never going to complain about that time off. But like, when it's time to go back to school, I was actually like kind of excited to just get back. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing from 8 to 4, or now that the kids are back, from 7 a.m. to 4:45. So like every day that I know what I'm doing. So in that retrospect, like, yes, I'm excited to be back. But summer was good.
Summer was good. Okay. Because I'm seeing this thing, and it's one of those stories that it makes it seem like it's happening down the street in Spencerport, but really it's coming out of the UK, where whoever they may be, psychologists, school administrators, I have no idea, researchers, are saying that you shouldn't ask students about how their summer was. It's called, the headline says something like the phrase that shouldn't be used during back to school, because they're afraid that if the student went through some kind of trauma, that trauma could be triggered and cause them emotional distress.
I mean, being in my position now as technically an administrator, that actually kind of makes sense. And especially for me, myself, I work at an urban charter school in the city of Rochester. And, the truth is for some of the kids, like, school is their safety net. Because there's, some kids, they might not go to the same home every day when they get out of school, or, I mean, they don't know if they're going to have a meal to eat or if a bed to sleep in. So, school is their safety net. And so when you ask some of those questions, even though, like, again, like, probably when we were kids, like, that was a non-issue. Like, oh yeah, I played with my friends, I was in the pool or on the beach or vacation. Like, so I see where they're coming from with this headline, unfortunately.
Without getting yourself in trouble, how many, by not anything wrong, but like by revealing personal details about students, which obviously you can't do.
Sure.
How much of the home life bleeds into the relationship between a teacher or administrator and students? Does that happen often? Is there a training for it? Like, talk about that a little bit.
So I'm in an elementary school, so deal with kids ages 5. Some of the kindergartners are 4 still, and our third graders are 8, 9 years old. However, so it's, I guess the best way to say it is, you never know how a young kid will react to like a sudden change or a traumatic experience. Some of them, it won't affect them at all. Some of them, you might notice all of a sudden they're a little more quiet, or maybe they're showing like behavior they've never shown before because they just don't know how to react to that. So for us, like building relationships with the kids and their families is like one of the things that we pride ourselves on a lot. We're in constant contact with families. Like the teachers call like once every 2 weeks just to give them general updates. But also even before the kids come back to school, our teachers make that first phone call and just be like, hey, is there anything I should know that happened over the summer, or how was so-and-so summer?
Sure, wow.
So you get some of that information already, so now you know, and then you can send out like emails to certain staff members, like, or we have a social worker at our school, so just like to keep people in the loop, be like, hey, this parent told me that this happened over the summer, so if we see X, Y, or Z, this might be why. So
oh, wow.
Building those relationships are really important, even before school starts.
I don't know if you can answer this, and I'm asking this for a specific reason because I have a relate to it. But have you ever had a situation where a student may exaggerate or lie about something happening at home to get out of something they were supposed to be responsible for at school?
So that's the fun thing with the elementary kids. I wouldn't say they would lie. I don't know, at least based on my experience, but they might exaggerate, or maybe they're telling the story through their lens,
Sure.
And that's might not actually match up to actually what happened. So then it's part of our job, like between my job and our social worker's job, we like kind of work together. And like I said, like we're never hesitant to give families a call, be
Sure.
like, hey, so-and-so told us this happened at home. I don't know if there's something we're missing here, but this is just what your child said. And then a lot of times it gets cleared up, but yeah.
Do the students know that you are so close with the parents? Do they really grasp it? I'm not talking about memos and saying it. Do they really grasp like I have a direct line to mom, dad, grandma, whatever?
So the kids that have been at our school for a few years, yes.
Do you think they like warn the kids coming in? They're like, listen, there's one thing you need to know. You ain't getting out of anything.
Yes, in a way, yes. The one thing is like with our kids, especially the ones, again, at my school in particular, who've been with us since kindergarten, like they love being at school. They love being in class. They love just everything about school. So they really don't try and pull anything because A, they know it's not going to work, but B, they actually generally just love being at our school and in the classroom and learning. The kindergartners, our brand new kindergartners, again, school's new for a lot of them. Not all of them go to preschool. For some of them, it's their first educational setting ever. And again, our school, being a charter school, we do things a little different than the public school. We're technically a college prep school, and we let parents know that. So our expectations are a little different than most public schools, probably. And so for some of our new kindergartners, they learn that, like, hey, if something's going wrong, or if we need to give mom or dad or someone at home a call, we'll call them. So some of them have learned the hard way with some tears, but once they'll figure out, because again, they've only been like our kindergartners came back. Our kindergartners started August 15th was their first day. So I mean, they've been at school for over 2 weeks now. So there's been a lot less tears.
Sure.
But yeah, they're starting to figure out that if need be, we will give somebody at home a call.
Do you think it's getting harder from year to year to deal with the kid-teacher, parent-teacher relationship with, that the stigma is that, you hear these one-off stories about teachers quitting because it's just so difficult to deal with parents. Do you think it's getting, not harder, but I think it's changing more abruptly from year to year than maybe you expected when you were deciding to become an administrator?
So, again, I have friends who they teach in public schools or even in like older grades, and more kids days and days they have cell phones. And so not saying that that's a problem necessarily, but it brings up more issues. What we read about on social media are like, yeah, my kid recorded this during class, or, something. That's part of it. And again, in the elementary school, most kids don't have phones. So,
okay.
And especially with, I would say elementary across the board, when I say across the board, I don't just mean my school. I mean just public schools in general, any sort of elementary school in general. I doubt there's probably a lot of pushback from parents because, I mean, sure, they get grades, but I mean, it's not like, oh, you're going to fail kindergarten or, I think you probably get a little more pushback in the older grades if a kid is like, if they're failing a class, or if they're giving a teacher a hard time. I don't like assuming, but I'm guessing that's where they probably get more parent pushback is, well, why is my kid failing? Or how come my kid has a D in your class?
My kid, yeah. Okay. And is there a difference with that between maybe non-traditional households like single parents, or if whether or not it's the grandmother or grandfather or aunt or uncle or whatever?
It can be. It depends on the situation.
Because I imagine they're going through a lot of difficult things just being a parent that wasn't, in air quotes here, supposed to be the parent of this child.
Sure.
I would imagine that they're like, just as long as I get them, as long as I raise them to be raised as a human being, I'm cool with that. Not that they're not trying, but it was just kind of, I'm certain sometimes it was just fell in their lap. So is there a more lax attitude, or you haven't noticed? It's okay if you haven't noticed. I'm just curious.
When it comes to like a single parent
versus
or a young parent, or
single, young, the minority parent in a way where it's non-traditional. Non-traditional.
Sure, non-traditional. Honestly, no, because especially at my school, every conversation, if we have to have, we say it's not about us, it's about your kid, and we're trying to do what's best for your kid. We want to support them, and we'll support you any way that we can. And once they especially like me, like in my role, when I call, it's usually because a kid is not in the classroom due to something that they did. But I don't make it personal about them, and I say it's not about your kid, it's about your kid's choices that they made. And we hold every single student to that same exact standard, and I'd be having the same conversation with any other family member. And it's a pretty easy buy-in. We, especially at my school, we're pretty blessed to have like really, really supportive family members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something you don't hear about any kind of school system. I don't care if it's public, or yours, college, high school. That's interesting to hear. And I mentioned my relate to that exaggerating point about kids exaggerating to get out of an assignment or something. I vaguely remember, and I have a terrible memory of my childhood. My younger brother has to remind me of all kinds of stuff. But I remember one time, 2nd or 3rd grade, big assignment was due. I either forgot or blew it off or a mixture of both. So I go, and it was Mrs. Kohler, and she asked why I didn't complete my assignment. And I remember it this way. I remember her kind of baiting me in to ask, almost like a therapist or a psychiatrist more than a teacher. Like, she wasn't like, where's your stuff? This doesn't make sense. She was like, is there something going on that you didn't do your assignment?
She opened the hole right for you.
I took the bait. I took it, and I was like, yeah, my parents, they were fighting last night, and I wasn't able to get it. And that might have been slightly true. They might have just been yelling or something at each other like everybody did in the 90s. But it did not work out because she called my parents, and they were like, what are you talking about? And they ratted me out. Now, they said to the teacher, they said, there's no way, he has no idea, he's making it up completely to get out of the assignment. And then it was 3 against 1 in that sense. Does that happen anymore? Do parents not believe their kid in certain situations when really it's a blatant lie, or they go, I don't care, listen to your teacher and get this done? Does that happen more than society puts out there in the news and on Twitter and stuff?
Well, I can't speak for every school, so I can really only go. This can be my 4th year working as an administrator. For the most part, little kids, they'll go home, they'll tell their parents about their day or what happened, or if a teacher said something. And, a lot of times, especially the parents that have been at our school for a while, they're like, they'll call me or something, and they'll be like, hey, so-and-so told me that his teacher said this. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen, but I would just like a little clarification.
Sure.
And I was like, sure, no problem. I'll have, I'll have the teacher call you during their break or something and clear it up, And for the most part, I mean, again, they want to hear what because of course, parents are going to ask their kids, hey, what happened at school? How was your day? Blah, blah, blah. And if a kid, tells them something that's a little off, they're not necessarily jumping to conclusions, but they're definitely like, hey, my kid said this, but it doesn't sound right. So can you just, they're very friendly about it. Let's put
Okay.
that. It's very civil.
That's some stigma has been painted across this relationship between teachers and parents where they think it's just, I mean, before talking to you for a good 20 minutes now, I thought it was teachers versus parents in a lot of situations.
That's what I hear from some of my friends too. Like, you know, that work at, whether it's middle school, high school, wherever. And they will say like, oh my gosh, like these parents, I can't do like everything. It's like, I'm doing everything wrong. Like,
so that isn't a stigma. That does happen.
oh, it does happen. I just don't know how often. And again, like I'm not in these other places. I can't necessarily speak for them. But I mean, I do have friends that'll tell me like, man, these parents, they'll believe anything their kid says. Or, you know, they'll say like, oh, I took their kid's phone. It's like, I didn't touch the kid's phone. You know, like kind of like what you say before, like the exaggeration, like at school though, but not necessarily at home to get out of something, but at school that something may or may not have happened, or to blow it out of proportion, just again to like, for whatever reason, who knows.
And now we'll wrap the show up here because this has been an awesome couple of minutes, Mike. I really appreciate it. But I always wondered this with teachers that I just notice on social media or teachers that I'm friends with, like what, aside from, I don't know, aside from the obvious, is there any like giant thing behind teachers using fake names on social media, fake handles, putting their accounts to private, putting their, you know, we all know a teacher friend or family member who either you can never find them on social media or they have a fake name or use their middle name or something. Is there like a general rule behind that, or is it all preference with each teacher or administrator?
Again, I think some of it depends on your school. I mean, I'm sure most schools nowadays have the social media talk. Be like, hey, like, you know, if you have social media, you know, be careful what you post, because it doesn't take much, especially, again, like middle school, high school kid, like they find out first names pretty quickly, and they could search, like, oh, look at this picture of my teacher at the bar this weekend, or look what my teacher tweeted the other day about X, or
politics,
or
stuff
whatever,
like that,
or some sort of
sensitive issues.
Exactly. So really for us, like obviously they tell, you know, they don't handcuff us or babysit us. They're just like, just watch what you post. Like, be a professional. Like, you're in a professional setting, and again, it can come back to you. And like, our big thing is like, they don't want us to post, you know, pictures of the kids, because you know, if you're a parent and all of a sudden you just see a picture of your kid, like, whether it's a harmless picture like them smiling or nothing, but like some parents like, no, I don't want my kid on the internet, you know, or I didn't approve of this.
You don't know who this kid's uncle is.
Exactly.
You know, or dad even.
Right.
You know,
and in some situations, yeah, like, oh, yeah, it's like, oh, my kid goes here now, or like, you know, because I've seen it, and even at other schools I've worked at, where if you have a dad who, or a family member who has a restraining order or something, and all of a sudden, oh, so they go to whatever school. Oh, right. So that's another reason too, but
safety.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as social media, it's like, just, you know, be smart. But again, some people like their privacy too. And some people have like a professional page and their personal page.
Their Finsta.
Yeah.
That's what the kids are calling fake Instagrams, Finstas.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Finsta, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like 14, 15-year-old boys and girls I hear are, you know, they make the ones that they let their parents have access to, and they have the fake ones where they do what they really want to do.
They're getting so clever.
All right. With that said, going, you know, with the social media rules and stuff, and only having 6 weeks off in the summer, and dealing with parents in certain situations, would you go back and do anything else, or you're pretty happy with your decision in life here? Not that you can't go off and make a career change, but
hey, you know, in a perfect world, I always said, like, you know, when I was young, obviously I wanted to play football or something, but like, you know, there's not a big demand for 5'6" linebackers. So, I mean, you know, in a perfect world, if I could pick anything to do, it'd probably be do something with sports, whether it's like sports broadcasting or something. But for the time being, I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
Very cool. Mike Vitale, thanks so much for hanging and giving us a little inside look on back to school topics, questions that I had at least, and really being honest about all that. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Teachers, you're fighting a good fight. Keep it up.
Make sure you set your alarm because you have to go to work tomorrow. Don't forget.
That's true.
Thanks for listening to the Chris Konya Show. We put Audio up every weekday at 6 a.m. and the video goes up on Facebook at 8 p.m. It's facebook.com/Chris Konya Show. Thank you so much.
You cause me trouble.